An important part of the NFL draft process has concluded this week with the 2025 Senior Bowl being in the books. And on today's show, we are going to look at the Dolphins draft targets following the 2025 Senior Bowl because there is a lot of prospects that the Dolphins front office met with, and we are going to break down who they met with and what they could possibly do for the Miami Dolphins. But first, make sure you are following me over on Twitter. My handle is at Nick_Roloff. I tweet out Dolphins news, Dolphins rumors. We're 76 followers away from 1,500. Would be greatly appreciated if we got there. If you want to be the most up-to-date Dolphins fan, make sure you follow us over on Twitter. All right, full transparency when making this video, we are only talking about the players that the Dolphins have met with while in Mobile, Alabama. There's obviously a million draft targets that could have been talked about following good performances at the Senior Bowl, bad performances, but I am only going to hone in on the players that was reported that met with the Dolphins because it's clear the Dolphins are scouting them and have an intrigue in some of these prospects. And the first one that we are going to mention is quarterback Jalen Milroe from Alabama. We actually mentioned him and both Dillon Gabriel on a video earlier this week. This is an intriguing quarterback prospect. Honestly, probably wish he didn't come out. Probably wanted him to go back to the NFL draft. I don't think he's as polished enough of a thrower of the football, a processor as well, but he is one of the most explosive athletes in this draft regardless of position. An astounding 20 rushing touchdowns, and if you drafted Jalen Milroe, he would give you immediate value on the football field because he could come in and play in short yard situations, 3rd and 1, 3rd and short, 4th and inches, inside the 5 on the red zone, and he would be able to have a package, almost like a Wildcat package or like a Justin Fields Taysom Hill package that we've seen be used by the Saints and Steelers respectively. And there is a concern from a straight quarterback perspective. He's young, there's a lot to like there in terms of what you can potentially develop, but his hand size is a legit concern. 8'6" is unbelievably low. It would be the smallest hand size of any quarterback drafted in the first round ever. It would also be the first time a starting quarterback would have this small of a hand size or under 9 inches since Taysom Hill in 2022. So I know a lot of people like to make a big deal of hand size and how important it actually is, but it is a serious concern when it comes to Milroe because when he's throwing in terrible conditions, is he going to be able to be as accurate with not having a stronger grip on the football? That is something you have to seriously consider with Milroe, but I am intrigued to some degree, and I want to get your thoughts. Put the GM hat on, become Chris Grier. Would you draft Jalen Milroe on day 2 of the NFL draft in late April? It's the pinned comment. Let me know your thoughts. Type D for draft or type P for pass. I mentioned this a couple days ago, but I'm definitely in on Jalen Milroe. Now, would I use a top 50 pick on him because the Dolphins drafted 13 and 48? Absolutely not. But if Jalen Milroe is still sitting there at pick 98, where it's projected Miami will be selecting in the 3rd round due to the Robert Hunt comp pick, I would take Jalen Milroe if you address other needs in your first 2 picks. I'm disappointed Jalen Milroe didn't separate himself as a potential QB3 this week, but that ultimately might allow him to slide down boards, and if he's there, I think the football player is worth taking at pick 98, even though the quarterback, Jalen Milroe, might not be at the caliber of being a 3rd-round pick right now. Dolphins fans will like number 2. The Dolphins met with Xavier Restrepo, the wide receiver from the University of Miami, record-setting wide receiver who now holds the all-time record for yardage and receptions for a Miami Hurricanes wide receiver. So shout out to Restrepo. He had a terrific year last season with Cam Ward, over 1,000 yards, over double-digit touchdowns. He is only a slot receiver, so that does diminish his value slightly, because if he was doing this as a X wide receiver or someone on the boundary consistently, he'd probably be a first-round pick. But he is one of the most accomplished wide receivers in in the history of the sport, and he is probably the most accomplished wide receiver statistically in this entire NFL draft class. Restrepo just put up gaudy numbers throughout his illustrious 5-year career as a member of the Miami Hurricanes. And could he end up staying home? The Dolphins probably should address wide receiver in the middle rounds because they need a long-term replacement for Tyreek Hill as his contract kind of winds down. He gets older, and they need a third wide receiver to step up. But my thing with Restrepo is, although he is the best slot receiver in this class purely for that position, he'll likely go early day 2, and I don't think it would be worth taking Restrepo with the 48th overall pick. Would it be a cool story? Absolutely, but the Dolphins don't need a pure slot receiver. I think Malik Washington, the 6th-round pick from last year's NFL draft, will be capable of handling that duty. If they're going to draft a wide receiver to develop, I would like it to be a big-bodied physical wide receiver that can compete in the red zone in contested catches, to be that potential X-wide receiver for Waddle once he becomes the wide receiver 1 when Tyreek Hill ultimately retires or gets moved off of. So I don't think it's a good fit for the Dolphins football team to draft Xavier Restrepo. But make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We are 80 subscribers away from 67,300 daily Miami Dolphins content on the draft, free agency, news. We'll have you covered on everything you need to know, so join the channel today. I mentioned Dillon Gabriel a little bit earlier. Gabriel is someone the Dolphins met with, the left-handed quarterback who spent a lot of time in college, was a Heisman finalist this past season for the Oregon Ducks, and he had a good week at the Senior Bowl. A lot of scouts labeled him as one of the most consistent quarterbacks. Probably the only QB that was better than him this past week was Tyler Shuck, the Louisville QB, but he's 25 years old. He's somehow even older than Dillon Gabriel, but he had a good Senior Bowl week, so he is someone rising up boards, could potentially put himself in the mix for QB3, QB4, because behind Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, that quarterback position is very much up in the air. And now we're going to get back to Gabriel here in just a second, but I do want to shout out Prize Picks, the sponsor on today's show. Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy sports platform, so easy to play. All you do is pick more or less, and at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. And make sure you check out the promos tab to tally any of the Prize Picks Super Sweat Millie winners big game lineups. If you tally a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can split up to $1 million in promo funds. Prize Picks is the most user-friendly daily fantasy sports app out there. And they're also offering a free pick for the big game next week. More than Patrick Mahomes, half a passing yard. Pair that up with one other stat projection, and if you get it right, well, guess what? You can win some serious cash. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks selects certain player projections and discounts them up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Shout out to Prize Picks. Prize Picks, run your game. As we get back to Dillon Gabriel, his size concern is not the same as Milroe, but similar. Hand size is on the smaller end, 9 inches, but Joe Burrow has that same hand size, so it can't be that much of a concern. But the reason why Gabriel's a little bit concerning is, 1, he's an older prospect. 2, he actually is very, very short. 5'10", 202 pounds. He's not the biggest guy, and that's a concern for me because how will he handle being hit by these NFL caliber athletes and physical players? That is a serious concern, but he does have that lefty ability that can kind of just easily transcend him as a backup to Tua Tagovailoa. And the intriguing thing about Gabriel is that he was very good last season in terms of completing passes, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, but borderline a check down merchant. You see the turnover-worthy play percentage, the adjusted completion percentage, very, very high in the college levels. But he does not throw the ball down the field. He does not push it down the field, and he doesn't hit small window and big-time throws often and compared to some other players at the college level, which is why there's a little bit of a concern for me. But I see the fit for the Dolphins because he gets out of his hands quickly, he's accurate, he's quick, he's experienced. It makes sense from a Dolphins perspective, even though I don't think the ceiling on Gabriel is that high whatsoever. How about this one? And this one's fun. Mason Taylor, the tight end from LSU, was someone the Miami Dolphins met with. And that last name might sound familiar, and it should, because he is the son of the legendary Dolphins edge, Jason Taylor. And when meeting with the Dolphins and then telling reporters afterwards, Taylor said that being so close to home would definitely mean something. And this isn't some charity case either. He is an excellent ball player. He is the all-time leader in receptions and receiving yards for LSU tight ends. So he had a very accomplished career as a member of the LSU Tigers, and he is someone that is big in size, would likely fit really well in this Dolphins scheme. He can run block. He can run routes over the middle of the field. You have him as your tight end 2 in 2025 next to Jonnu Smith, with him potentially taking over for Jonnu after this season when Smith becomes a free agent if you don't want to pay him. It is something that I certainly have my eye on for the Miami Dolphins. This would be considered a sleeper target for the Dolphins in round 2 or 3. Mason Taylor, name someone that you want to target in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round for the Miami Dolphins that we might not have talked about. Get in the comments section, display your ball knowledge on a sleeper draft target. How about we're going to go back to the Miami Hurricanes, another player that Miami met with. This one, an offensive lineman, Jalen Rivers. And this is an intriguing player as well. Former 4-star recruit. Rivers is a versatile and talented guy that just hasn't been able to put it together because of his injury history. But in limited playing time in 2024, he put up relatively good numbers. According to Pro Football Focus, he graded out very well as a pass blocker. And the part that I really like about Jalen Rivers is the versatility that he can play for the Dolphins. This would likely be late day 2, maybe even a late day 3 type of guy, but he split time at left tackle, only playing 364 snaps, and left guard. So he is a versatile offensive lineman. I'm a fan of versatility, similar to an Isaiah Wynn type of guy where he can play inside, he can play outside, probably wouldn't be a projected starter from day 1, but would absolutely be someone Miami could benefit from developing as an interior offensive lineman and swing guy on their depth reserve behind a veteran starter. Now, the concern with Rivers is that he has a lengthy injury history. It's kept him in and out of the lineup as a member of the Hurricanes over the past 5 seasons. Disappointing to see, but it is something you have to concern yourself about. One last player that we need to mention that the Dolphins met with, Damien Martiniez, the running back from Miami. So that is now 3 Hurricanes that the Dolphins met with at the Senior Bowl. Doesn't surprise me one bit, but we talked about Martiniez here. Got over 1,000 yards, a bigger back. I'll be curious to see if the Dolphins target a running back in the draft, because they do have Jalen Wright behind Devon Achane, but they could probably use a physical running back as their 3rd guy for short yardage situations inside the red zone. You wonder if they target Martiniez or another physical back like Phil Maffa, Cam Scadaboo. A couple of those guys come to mind. Now, the Dolphins didn't meet with this player, but I do want to tell y'all about an offensive lineman that's rising up boards. He was a projected 2nd-round pick, but he ultimately might play himself into the 1st round. Gray Zabel, the interior offensive lineman from North Dakota State, earned Practice Player of the Week at the Senior Bowl. Jim Nagy announced that. He is someone that would fit Miami to a T, be able to fill in on the interior offensive lineman as a starter right away. I doubt Zabel would be there at 48. He was a target for me in the 2nd round coming into the week, but he may have played too far and too good, so the Dolphins might not be able to get him at 48. But if he slides and ultimately is there at 48 in late April, keep an eye on Gray Zabel, because I'd love him in a Dolphins uniform. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because we will continue to have you covered throughout this entire process about the draft, free agency, news, everything you need surrounding this football team. I'm Nick Roloff, putting out daily content, so join the channel today.